I'm excited. I mean, kind of the same thing I mentioned after the game, just how grateful I am, you know, to be healthy, to be in this moment with these guys, to be on the field. And I'm just excited for the challenge and the opportunity.
Been able to come together on the road. I've always thought it was a very fun environment when, you know, it's just your group, you know, in the stadium that wants you to win and everybody else is rooting against you. And when you're able to cry, like quiet, you know, 70,000 people, however many thousand people, that's a pretty fun experience.
That's Bobby Wagner, Seahawks linebacker. Before that, Carson Wentz, Eagles quarterback. It feels like Carson Wentz has been in the NFL 10 years. It's actually his 4th season. And his first playoff game coming up this weekend because he was injured last year and the year before that. I think playoff experience for quarterbacks, an underrated factor in all of this, because I think there is a potential to kind of freak out a little bit in your first go-round. And in that game, the last game of the weekend, you're talking about Russell Wilson, who's got plenty of experience, going against a Carson Wentz who has none. And I do think that's going to be a factor, Big Cat.
Mike, you're right, and I have a stat to back it up for you. 15-32. Quarterbacks making their first start in the playoffs, their first playoff start. That's straight up 14-32-1 against the spread. So there absolutely is something to be said for a quarterback making their first playoff start and the nerves that come into it. And it's weird with Carson Wentz because, of course, Ryan Tannehill and Josh Allen are the other 2 quarterbacks this weekend that are making their first playoff start. Carson Wentz, you feel like he's not because the Eagles won the Super Bowl 2 years ago and they've been in the playoffs for a couple years in a row. So it's crazy that this is his first playoff start. I think the way the Eagles season went, though, Mike, minimizes it a little bit because the Eagles have been in a must-win playoff-type atmosphere for what feels like a month now. And that Cowboys game on a Sunday afternoon in Philadelphia when they had to win it for the division, that felt like a playoff game. So Carson Wentz has had a little bit to warm up here with the games that he's had to play and the margin of error being absolutely zero when it comes to the end of the Philadelphia Eagles season. So I think he's ready for this, and I wouldn't take the first playoff start for a QB into effect here. I'd do it more for the Josh Allen, Ryan Tannehill games.
And that's a good point because every year there is a team or two that gets into that playoff mode in early December and has played 4 de facto postseason games by the time the postseason rolls around. So they're already in that win-or-go-home. They're comfortable with that win-or-go-home mindset. But here's the difference for the Eagles. Giants, Washington, Cowboys, Giants, the 3 other teams from the worst division in football, that's a far cry from the Seattle Seahawks. This is going to be the toughest test of the season so far for the Philadelphia Eagles. A rematch of a game that was played weeks ago, may as well be years ago because the teams are fundamentally different since then, especially the Eagles. I mean, it's Carson Wentz and a bunch of Vince Papalis. I don't know how they've been winning with these guys that we hadn't heard of until all of a sudden they're on the field getting things done, and that's obviously an exaggeration because guys like Zach Ertz have been around. Dallas Goedert's getting things done. He's a guy they have high hopes for. But I think that they may finally be running into that brick wall against a team like the Seahawks, Big Cat.
Yeah, it's true. I actually have this from my notes from Sunday when I was complimenting the Eagles. The week 1, the Eagles had Darren Sproles, Jordan Howard, Deshaun Jackson, Zach Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, and Nelson Aguilar as their weapons. Week 17, the names that Carson Wentz was throwing to or playing with, Dallas Goedert, Greg Ward, Deontay Burnett, Josh Perkins, Boston Scott, Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders and Dallas Goedert are the only 2 that have been there since week 1. And it's a complete overhaul with guys, like you said, that are coming off the street and somehow producing. So with all that said, Mike, the one thing that I feel like that's getting missed here, because we always talk about the more injured team, the Seahawks aren't healthy either. The Seahawks have had a ton of injuries this year, and the Seahawks defense has had a ton of injuries and a ton of issues. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I mean, do you feel confident with the Seahawks, with the way they've played down the stretch, and having a very weird year where they've had a ton of injuries, and I feel like their record this year and the way that they finish this year is all because of Russell Wilson and what he's able to do. It's one of those situations where the team around him probably isn't that great this year, but Russell Wilson is so special that he elevates them to that level where he gets them in the playoffs. So I don't think the Seahawks are coming into this game with, some powerhouse team that's going to be able to roll over the Eagles. I think it's 2 banged-up teams, and it really comes down to which quarterback can elevate their players, the guys around them, to the level to win this game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, the best game we saw this year from the Seahawks was that Monday nighter against the 49ers, deep into overtime, and they finally won the game. Jadeveon Clowney had a game for the ages that night, and he hasn't been the same since then because he got a sports hernia. He hasn't practiced this week. Who knows what he's going to be able to do come Sunday. But you're right. The defense has been banged up. The running game is down to Travis Homer, Marshawn Lynch, and Robert Turbin. Nobody knows what Lynch has left in the tank. And Travis Homer actually is the wild card in all this. They love this kid. Undrafted out of Miami. He had 62 rushing yards on 10 attempts last week, 30 yards in the passing game with 5 catches. They love that he goes 1,000% all the time, and he's the guy that, like, if the Seahawks win this one, he may be the guy we're talking about on Monday morning as the complement to Russell Wilson. But I like the Seahawks just because of Russell Wilson, but I agree with you. That one can go either way.
All right, I'm taking the Eagles in this game. I think they just got something going on.
I am too. Good. We agree. Oh, no, we're not. We don't agree. We disagree.
Yeah.
Here's what we agree on. We got to take a break.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.